Hello, my fellow campers for a cause. Don Finnerty here, and I wanted to talk to you while you're all out camping about something that I think is wonderful to do for yourself, for your family, just in general. It's a great thing, and that is gardening. Now, right here, I'm sitting in my garden right now, and I have a tomato plant beside me and one right there in front of me. And we put in about a dozen tomato plants every year. We put some in that are early producers, and then the rest of them are mostly heirloom tomatoes because they taste better. But they don't come early. It has to wait until later in the year. But I think as a child growing up, one of the most wonderful things I experienced was the first fresh garden-grown tomato. And a lot of us know there's nothing in the world quite the same as a fresh homegrown tomato. And this is a great way to teach your children responsibility, to teach your children self-sustainability, and just to provide them with entertainment and good food. So right about now, it's kind of late to try to start a tomato from seed, but this year you can go out in just about any place and buy a tomato plant. Put that tomato plant in the ground. You don't have to have a big garden to garden tomatoes or to grow anything else, lettuce, peas, anything. You can grow in a flower pot. Special shout out to Jamie Bordas and Bordas for sponsoring Youth Services Camp Out for a Cause. And I mention that because a couple years ago I worked for Jamie Bordas. I was the Vice President of Creative Services for Wheelhouse Creative. And our building was the building right there beside the big blue Bordas and Bordas building on National Road. And one of the things I did when we moved into that big yellow building was I planted a tomato plant in a flower pot right outside the building. And it brought some of the most wonderful conversation about. We talked about it every morning. We watched when the flowers first appeared on it. We watched when tomatoes started to grow. And the big thing was who was going to get to be the first to eat a tomato. I think most of those tomatoes went to the deer, but it was a wonderful way to get to know one another, and it just was always a good icebreaker. So start a garden. Doesn't matter if it's a big garden, doesn't matter if you grow a tomato plant in a pot, doesn't matter if it's just nasturtiums and lettuce. You just want to grow something you can eat. And it doesn't even have to be stuff you can eat. Perhaps my most wonderful, most cherished childhood memory that involves my mother deals with a time when I was about 5 years old, and she helped me start a rose bush from a clipping. There was a neighbor that had a rose bush that apparently I loved as a kid, smelled good, beautiful flowers. And my mother took a clipping, we dipped it in root hormone, root starter, put it in the ground. I think we put coffee grounds around it, and we set a jar on top of it. That took root, turned into a rose bush. We got beautiful roses from it, and several years later, when I was 9 years old, we moved to another house, and we took that rose bush with us. And then many years later, I had been married for several years, and I was still able to pick roses off of that very rose bush for my wife. So create great memories for yourself, for your family. Grow some food, grow some beautiful flowers. Just enjoy being outside. Thank you for taking part in Camping for a Cause, and thank you very much for supporting Youth Services.